Listen, this episode is one you're going to want to lean all the way into because we're diving into something that most people claim to want, but few ever really achieve, and that's clarity. Not surface level clarity. I'm talking about knowing who you are, what season you're in, and what you're truly called to do. Too many people are out here building brands without a foundation. They're chasing visibility with no vision and creating content but missing conviction. So I had to bring in someone who helps people cut through the noise and get honest with themselves. Precious Azuree, the clarity coach. Okay, so we're unpacking identity, belief systems, decision making, and how your brand, not my brand, not your friend's brand, your brand is really your legacy. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're serious about doing the inner work that builds something lasting. Let's get right into it. What's happening with you, Precious?
Hey, happy Tuesday.
Yeah. Happy Powerful Tuesday. That's what today.
Right.
Yeah, you think
Powerful Tuesday.
All right?
Yeah, I was trying to get my camera angle right. Make sure we're good. Okay.
That's always the case, right? It's like, okay, let me make sure it's lined up. Let me make sure the light's right.
Yeah.
Mic is good. So yeah. But I appreciate you joining me today. I know we initially connected on a joint call where we were listening in, getting poured into by Pastor Darius Daniels. And I think you asked a question and it just really like sparked something in me. I was like, oh man, that's such a potent question. So without further ado, let the people who might not know who you are, what you're all about and what your expertise lies in.
Amazing. Well, yes, thank you so much for the invitation for us to have this conversation and exchange value to both of our communities. So as you stated, I'm Precious Azuree, also known as the Clarity Coach. I work with creative, vision-driven entrepreneurs, nonprofit founders, solopreneurs, and helping them unlock the clarity that they need to grow in their life and business. A lot of my background comes from more of the branding and marketing space. But after 4 years of having my own agency, I realized my true passion was developing the people behind the brand. And I've just been so in love with how things have evolved over the years. I always say entrepreneurship chose me. I didn't want this life, but God knew. God knew. He was like, I know how I'm about to steward her gifts. And so now we here.
You know what's funny about that? I found myself in the same path. I was a corporate guy all day, but, working with individuals who run businesses or who operate in businesses, I felt more connected to them than I did the actual work I was doing. And so God was pulling me in the same way, like, no, I got some stuff for you out here. I need you to be blessing people and kind of pushing them in the right direction. So we walk a similar path in that way. But you said something, clarity and clarity coach. A lot of people desire clarity. A lot of people want direction, not only for their lives, but their business.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are multi-talented. Some people just really have no clue what it is they do. So as a clarity coach, what would you say, like without textbook definition, right? We can all pull out a Webster, but what would you say is like a definition of what clarity means for you and your clients?
Clarity is truth and alignment. That is how I would define clarity. Because what I've realized is my special sauce is helping people communicate their value, whether that is to their team, whether that's to their customer, whether that's to an investor. It's like I'm trying to get this message across for my people to grow, or I'm trying to get this message across to build my audience, or I'm trying to get this message across to myself to fully understand this calling or vision that I have. And so being able to translate the essence of who someone is or the brand that they're building into an actual brand identity, like that is my gift. And I'm super grateful when it comes to clarity, because you can't put a price tag on it.
No.
You know?
You can't.
You can't really track the ROI for real,
You
for real.
can't.
And as a clarity coach, I'm just about making sure that I keep you honest and keep you true to who you are. And we build upon that authenticity and keep that alignment along the way.
Man, let's talk about it because I like if I could just extract certain segments out of what you just said, there's so many things there. But I wanna put a pin in two things. Number one, you said helping people like with identity. I think so many people don't know who they are or whose they are. They don't know the direction they're going in or should be going in. And that's two different things, right? But you also said like this is a thing that's driving you, and it's because you have a passion to help people. And there's no way to put a value on what you do. The ROI sometimes is a little fuzzy. I know a lot of people want to see immediate results after they begin to identify who they are, right? By getting the help necessary. But as you put it, sometimes it's invaluable. Sometimes it's really hard to put a mark on that. I know sometimes people, they're investing into themselves, whether it's going to the gym, reading books, etc., right? But they also are investing their time and their money in building their brand or their business.
Yeah.
How would you like help somebody who feels strained in that way, where they've been pouring in and doing a lot of stuff, but they're not really finding clarity or feeling like they're on the path that they should be on because they're not seeing the immediate results? What would you say to that person who's struggling with that?
Yeah. I would say we would have to start with purpose, because if you truly feel like you're in alignment with your purpose, these are deposits and things that are going to compound over time. Yeah. So you're not looking for the immediate results. The result is in you showing up the next day and the next day after that and the next day after that. And so I would say if someone is struggling with that, I think there's a moment to like pause and reflect. Is the thing I wanted a year ago or 3 months ago the actual thing I'm seeking for in this season? And I think sometimes we hold on to a vision too long and we evolve. And the more you do the work, like even me coming into this I ended the year in a space of like Q1, I'm going to come in with ease and really get an idea of how I want my 2025 to be. And so giving myself that opportunity to pause and reflect on who I am now and what I want now, I don't think a lot of people take the time to do that. Yeah. They just want all this time I invested, all this money, I want to see something. And it's like, but is that the thing though?
Yeah. Not only is it the thing that you should be doing, is it the thing that God wants you to do? Is it the path you should be on to help more people? Because at the end of the day, it's not necessarily about you. It's about who you're actually impacting with that gift or with that talent that you have. And I think that, you hit a good point because a lot of people get burnt out real quick and they're like, you know what, this ain't for me. And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to recognize, like, you know what, I thought I really wanted this thing. I don't really want, like, yeah, like I say all the time, like I listen to classical music sometimes when I'm trying to study or get focused. And I hear these amazing masterpieces, whether it's piano, violin, whatever. And I'm like, man, I really wish I could play like that. But do I really? Do I want to practice 20 hours a day for 3 years just to play Hey Diddle Diddle? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. Yeah. So, you have to ask yourself, do you really want this thing that you say you do? And if you do, why would you allow the lack of immediate results to stop you in your tracks? That's a question mark for anybody to go, okay, this is a test to see if I really want this thing or not. So speaking of identity, like, part of today's call, and I'm glad we decided to get on here, is to not only help people understand, who they are and kind of get a little bit more about the brand that they represent, but is to enlighten them to know that whether you're working a 9 to 5 or whether you have a business that's thriving or failing, you are your brand. You are building a brand whether you like it or not. So what do you feel about that? Do you think that everybody has a brand, or do you think that only certain people who are working on their brand have a brand?
Your brand is your reputation and your legacy. That's just like simply put, if we really think about those that have great businesses, it rises and falls on their leadership and the culture they created based on the person that they are. And so I always tell people, I was actually talking to some youth. I went to go speak in Abuja, Nigeria, and I was talking to them about financial literacy and understanding the cash flow quadrant and having them imagine themselves as business owners, as investors. And one girl, she's an animator. So she does video animation and she loves doing it. She was like, I see myself having my own agency one day.
Wow.
And I said, well, how you're showing up right now with your business as a side hustle, as you evolve and identify as a freelancer or a business owner, you're building your reputation right now. I said, how you handle your customers, how you communicate, how you deliver your work, how you show up is your brand. And how people feel when they interact with your brand is who you are. I had another client, and she's an executive. She doesn't necessarily have a business, but she's had hobbies and ideas. And she's like, I don't know how I feel about, building a brand or being the face of my brand. And I said, you don't have to be the face. But the same values of who you are that has created, allowed you to climb the corporate ladder, that's allowed you to build this community, those are the same values you want to translate within your brand. And so it's so much more intrinsic work.
Yeah.
But most people think about branding and aesthetics, and it's like, that's like the little cherry on top. That's the cherry. Okay?
Man,
Yeah.
so good, so potent. Like that cherry on top scenario is ideal with how I describe branding to my clients and to potential clients because, I look at it like this. Everybody wants the skyscraper, right? They want a big business that's rising above all the other, buildings around it, right? But they don't necessarily want to dig the foundation deep enough to be able to establish a skyscraper and maintain it when those winds and those turbulences start picking up, because they're gonna come. You're gonna face some hardship and adversity. You're gonna deal with customers who get on your nerves and all this other stuff. How do you deal with that when it happens? If your foundation is not solid, then you can expect that thing to crumble.
Yeah.
Period. And this is the reason why people feel like they're in a wrong position or they're doing the wrong thing or they don't know which direction to go in. It's because you never laid the foundation properly. You're trying to build a 72-story building on a ranch foundation. It doesn't work that way.
With no elevation whatsoever.
Right. What are you doing?
I wanted to add to that when you talk about foundation. So in my book, it's called The Faith Focus Formula. And I talk about like the 4 big decisions that you have to make when it comes to managing your time, stewarding your time well, but then also having the foundation of faith. Because earlier you brought up, knowing who you are and whose you are. And that spiritual alignment, once you really lean into the fact that, I'm here to expand God's kingdom, I gotta throw this whole business plan out the window and just start with that foundation, Yeah. And so in my book, I define faith as the belief system that shapes the story of your reality. And so those belief systems are your thoughts and whatever's in your subconscious mind. And so your beliefs and knowing what you believe about yourself, about God, and about others, that's a foundational piece and decision that you have to make of like, what do I really believe? And then you got to get clear on your vision. A lot of people want to have this multi-million-dollar brand or company, but have you really sat down and really ran the numbers of like, okay, how much money do I actually want or need?
Yeah.
What's that actual goal? Most people don't have a number. They have a title they want. They want to be on Forbes 100, they want to be on Inc. 500. They want these titles, but it's like, what's your real number? Do you have a budget? Do you know?
Have you thought about it?
Have you thought about it? Is it written down? And I think once you get clarity on your beliefs and your vision and what that, financial freedom number is, now you can talk about goals and time management. People want to jump to the calendar, the time blocking. Let me get me a new planner. That's cute. But what about these other decisions that you needed to make so that all that can make sense? Because if not, then they're just goals and action items.
That's so good. Yeah. No, so like let's lean into that word belief, right? Because I feel like a lot of people automatically just throw a cross symbol on it and say, "Oh, that's religious." Well, first of all, beliefs can be for anybody. It doesn't matter who you are. You believe in something, all right? We're not even talking about just the spiritual realm, because that's real and that's absolutely, faith is a part of my driving boat for sure.
Yeah.
But what I'm referring to is what you said, belief in self. belief in the thing that you're doing, belief in who you are, right? A lot of people deal with imposter syndrome. You talked about authenticity. That is a word that's kicked around left and right, and people don't even know half of what it actually means. But the thing I get, and just to get real like technical and straightforward with it, a lot of people feel like they can't be themselves, whether they are in the office, whether they are at home, whether they are in public or in private. They are afraid to be themselves. And the thing that has given me fulfillment in my own personal life is finding a way to be who I am no matter who I'm around, no matter what doors I'm in or what doors I'm behind. And I think people lose sight of that. Like who you are behind closed doors matters just as much as who you are in front of the lights and the cameras. Mm-hmm. Right. And you got to be comfortable in your own skin to be able to be in that corporate office and still be just as black as you are at the barbecue. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And still be with your family who you grew up with, who know you by your, nickname and all of that good stuff, and still have the same professionalism that you would when you're in a corporate office. It's a balance and it's a fine tooth thing. But in tapping into your identity and knowing who you are and whose you are, you can get comfortable doing that because you're doing the work necessary to be the right person, which is key in every area, right? You don't have to be fake, right? But B, you're unafraid of offending people or losing your job by being yourself because you're already tapped into who your provider is, right? And so that's my key. I know who I am and I know that he has a path for me. So I'm unafraid to be exactly who I am, no matter where I am and who I'm around. So, and people be seeking freedom. But when I tell you, I mean, I can only talk about my own experiences, but knowing that, I have Jesus as an example and as a redeemer, I just live differently. I move differently. It's a different level of confidence and conviction that comes with that. And people will say like, so I'll be honest, I'm 33 years old, and people will say like, where did you get all this experience and wisdom? He started with me when I was a teenager. Okay, so this is 16 years, 17 years of intentional growth and relationship building with my creator, in addition to taking faith in action. Like that's literally like my middle name, like up there with accountability, intentionality, and consistency and all those other things. But faith in action is who I am. When I hear a word or I get inspired, or I follow that intuitive nature that we all have, but we're quick to kind of judge that and doubt that. And tying this all back to identity and building a brand, a lot of the times we don't stay true to who we are because we're so open and influenced by all the worldly things. Yeah. So now that's all you comparing yourself to. When it's like, I have my example of who I'm comparing myself to. Right. Okay, we building on rock, not sand. But when you focus on what the world is doing, now your brand and your call to action and your offers changing every 3 months. It's like, you got a new logo again? You got, so. Yeah, you rebranding because you never had a brand to begin with. Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Like, and I think people are afraid of what people might say. So if you're not following the world and kind of doing it from that principle, you're also afraid to live in and walk in the faith that you live in and walk in on Sunday, right? It comes to Tuesday and you're out promoting your business and you're afraid of what people might think if you call on his name. You know what I mean? Or if you say a prayer before you eat at this business function. Like, don't switch up just because you're around people that you feel like might look at you weird if they don't have the same faith as you. I think it's okay to be in your faith no matter where you are. And being true to yourself in that way is always going to reign supreme. Because guess what? You can lie with your words, but your energy is going to tell the truth every time. Ooh, every time. It don't matter who it is, where you at. Your energy is going to reveal exactly who you are. And it goes back to the question of who are you doing this for? Who are you doing this for? Yeah, what's driving you? Who's driving you? Who's driving you? What's really driving you? Because
if you know what your purpose is and you know the gifts that God has given you, no person's reaction, side comments, thought like they would just fall off, you know?
Yeah, you said something right there. I'm sorry to interject. I have to ask a question on that because I feel like there are some people who could be, benefited by your response. You say your identity is shaped by your beliefs, and I agree. But how do you help somebody who's struggling with their experiences, right? Based on who they really are, right? Versus what they've been through. A lot of people identify with what they've been through, whether it's past trauma,
That's
whether
good.
it's good experiences, etc. How do you separate and how do you help a person who's struggling with their identity based off beliefs that are tied to who they have been, what they
Yeah.
have experienced?
Oh, okay. Let me move my chair a little bit.
Just a little
Okay.
bit.
So I define faith by the belief system that shapes the story of your reality. We're going to lean into story of your reality. So, yes, we have our lived experiences, and based on whatever story or narrative we create, that is our reality. Case in point, there was a period of time where my mother nor father was in my life, right? I had the opportunity to, be a victim and sit in that, or choose to not judge God's work and know that there's a purpose behind this. This is at 16 years old. This is the level of wisdom and how I'm thinking. Okay. And so I had to sit with myself and say, okay, these are the good things that I took from them. These are the bad things I rebuke and I will not associate myself with. I had to sit and make a decision of what story did I want to tell myself? Do I want to linger in all the pain or abandonment of what I felt? It's real. I'll acknowledge it. I'll accept it. But what story is going to serve me best? They did the best they could with the tools that they had. There are a lot of positive things that I'm 50-50 the best version of them. That was my new story. So now that I have that story about my true lived experience, I didn't dishonor it, I didn't water it down, but I chose what's going to be my narrative to myself of how I identify with it. And then once you do the work and say, okay, who is my creator? And you look at the characteristics of your creator and knowing that they're abundant and realizing, okay, I was born in abundance. So where did this deficit mindset come from? Actually don't even matter, because now that's where I'm pointing to. Because there's so much evidence to the abundance and what God offers. So when you do that work and you choose the narrative, that's how you start to pivot and shift your thoughts and beliefs.
That's so good. The work, the thing that people avoid, right? And I get it, man. Like some stuff is hard to face. Some stuff is hard to deal with, hard to forget, hard to forgive, hard to let go, hard to acknowledge. I could go on and on and on. But choose your heart.
Yeah.
Are you gonna choose to deal with this thing and have a hard time and recover from it, or change the way you are thinking about it so that it's not controlling your narrative? Like you just said, you chose what story you wanted it to tell yourself, right?
Yeah.
Or are you gonna choose the heart that's holding you back? The heart that's keeping you stuck in a room trying to figure out your life. The heart that has you working in a job that you hate. Hate. Trying to figure out why you're in this position when you're constantly choosing that position. And I can only speak from that place because I've been there, right? This is not to come down on anybody. I don't think entrepreneurship is for everybody.
Right.
And I don't think working in a corporate job is for everybody. Just like I don't think going to college is for everybody. And I don't think joining the military is for everybody. But if you decide you want to do something and something in you is pulling you in a different direction, right? You have to recognize what that is, call it for what it's supposed to be, meaning like name it, right? And I don't mean the name it and claim it thing. I mean like understanding that. I hear people say all the time, man, something just told me to go down that road. No, that wasn't something, that was God.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Acknowledge it for what it is.
Yeah.
All right. Once you can do that, you can begin to see things from a different perspective, because it's never about the pain and the suffering and the things that you've been through. It's only about what God is going to do with that testimony, with that story, to propel you and other people around you that much further along the journey.
Yeah.
So I love the answer that you gave. I think it makes a lot of sense that people too often shape their identity by their past situations or their experiences growing up instead of deciding to choose their own story and walk their own path.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. I love that. Another quick question for you, because I just feel like you're gonna hit me with it. You know what I mean? I feel like you got it. So I'm gonna just go ahead and ask you, in your opinion, what's more dangerous, indecision or wrong decision?
Ooh, that's so good. So, what's more dangerous? I mean, I'm gonna have to go with indecision because at least you had the power to make the decision and did, and if it failed, you can learn from it. But indecision means that you just allowed it to pan out however, like you had no influence. You didn't decide to like either advocate yourself, speak your truth. Indecision is very dangerous, and if you think about all of our relationships, it's based on our level of having like certain crucial conversations.
Yeah.
And when you avoid those crucial conversations, nothing happens. Nothing actually progresses forward. At least with the wrong one, if you're really humble and honest about it, you can say, you know what, that was my bad. And you can take accountability. But not saying anything or not making the decision.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good point.
Dangerous.
The reality is when you make the wrong decision, hopefully you learn from it and now you know which way not to go. But being indecisive is a gut killer. Like it's just gonna stab you in the gut, and you're gonna be sitting there wondering what's gonna happen. At the end of the day, at least in making a decision, you have something to do with the outcome.
Yeah.
With the indecision, you just sit back waiting for whatever to happen and hoping that it works out.
When I say one of my biggest pet peeves, and I tell people on my team, is like, do not sit in confusion. Biggest mistake. I said, do not sit in confusion. And I said, you're not asking questions. I know you're not working. Because I know it's 20% of IDK up in there. I know 80% of it I was clear on. I delivered my expectations, but you're gonna have questions. And when you're not asking questions, I know you're not working. And so don't sit there, and you have to empower people to make decisions. And I'm glad we're talking about decision making because I wanted to tie this to the AI piece because as cool as AI is, you as the human being, as the creative, as the innovator, you have to make the final decision.
Yeah,
you still have to make the final decision. And some people, are just being what word do I want to use? Careless isn't strong enough. I'm trying to think. There's a stronger word. Naive, actually. There's a lot of people naive when it comes to leveraging that next big thing to be able to have a level up. And it's like, if only you knew that wasn't gonna last.
So it's two things though. You said naive. Are they naive in the use of it, but also are they naive in not using it? Right? Because I think they go both ways.
Yeah. So I would say naive in the sense of AI is a new tool. It's gonna do it for me. That's a naive statement.
Yeah.
It may help you speed up your innovation. It may help you outline some things, but to make the decision, it's not the decision maker. Like you can say, "Oh, what should I do about this?" But it doesn't have all the historical context that's really needed in order for you to make your decision. You can have, I think it's important for us to have filters, just how it's important to filter things you hear in the world through scripture to see what's real. You have to have your own filter for your brand and for your business to say, is this aligned with my long-term goal? Does this align with my values? Will this, is this for my target audience? Like, these are all the other decisions you have to consider to make sure it's in full alignment. And I think some people are just, keeping things very generic and general. And it's like, you still got to do that work and have that clarity. You can't eliminate that.
It's a tool. At at the end of the day. It's I know people associate AI with robots and all this stuff that's going on, and all of that is fine, but it'll never replace you. It's not intended to do that. Back in the farming age, when sharecroppers were out there plowing the yards themselves with handmade tools, and then they got oxen to pull these big pieces of iron to till the ground, and then they got tractors. Like, it's always an improvement, but guess what's always going to be there? The farmer. The farmer's gonna always be there, and the one who's actually doing the work and getting his hands dirty along with his tool is gonna move a whole lot faster than the one who just put the cow or the oxen with this thing and walked in the house and laid down. Man, you're gonna come back out there, that place gonna look foolish. You ain't gonna have nothing for the
All the
harvest.
crops gonna be messed up. What's that? What had happened?
Right. So leveraging AI is great. I think that anybody who's skeptical on utilizing it or barely tapping in, I suggest you take some time to really figure out how to leverage it for sure, for your business, for your day-to-day life, etc. Because it's where we are. It's not the future, it's today. But to your point, don't be naive about it. Don't feel like this is just going to be like an automation tool and now you can market to the whole world and you don't have to do anything. No. Get out of this mindset that you don't have to do anything or that you can get out of the work.
Please.
I'm just saying, if I see millionaires and even like almost billionaires like Alex Hormozi who are still doing the work, what makes you think with the $386.26 you got in your bank account that you don't have to do the work? And I ain't talking bad about nobody, because I'm talking about myself. I have to wake up every day and wash my face and look in the mirror and go, okay, today I got to do the work. You know what I mean? It don't matter how big of a boss you get or how many people you hire, you have to do the work.
Yeah.
So I'm with you 1,000%.
And I saw someone ask about how do you go through a brand adjustment. So I want to make sure we address that question. But to comment on what you said, I believe there's 4 phases that we typically go through. One is that clarifying phase of like, okay, what direction should I go? And then you identify that now you have to commit and you're seeking that structure or accountability. And then from there, now you create and you're building and you're launching and you're testing the market. And then after that, you cultivate and you either refine, like now you've had some success, you're mastering it, you're refining what you're doing, or you're probably pivoting. And we constantly go through those cycles, and it's important to know what season you're in. Yeah. If I'm in a clarifying season, then I'm asking questions. I'm not executing as fast. Yeah. Right? And if I've already made the commitment, now I got to reevaluate my day-to-day routine, my community, my advisors. Like, yes, AI is great. Do that deep thought partnership, but there's so many different resources out here. I know I have a free booking link in my bio, and you have a discovery call I'm sure people can book. Seek counsel. If you want to speed up the process, seek counsel. When you've made the commitment, it's like now you got to surround yourself around that expertise that you need. If you're in that phase of like, okay, I have the structure, I'm building, I'm launching, now it's important for you to get that awareness that you need. Are you really building community? I think every brand should be focused on figuring out and asking yourself, am I connected to the people that I'm serving? Yeah. And that should be something. If you want to ask ChatGPT, how can I build connection with the people that I serve? That'll be a good question for you. Right. And I think those that are in that cultivate season where it's like, I've reached a certain level of success, I think it's a matter of like just realigning purpose. Like, is this still a part of my purpose? Am I still aligned? Who else can I impact? Who else can I grow within what I'm doing so you can have more success stories? And so I want to bring up those phases because it's important for people to know where they are to then know where they need to be burning mental calories and where they don't.
Wasting time in spaces they shouldn't be in, trying to cultivate when they're really in the reevaluate phase. Right. Yeah. I think you said it in your post or maybe in your video promoting this call, you said, you can't scale something that's not like, and I'm paraphrasing, put together.
Yeah.
Right? You have
It's
to get
not
clarity.
defined.
Right. You
You
have to
can't build
define.
something that's not defined.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people want to race to the Ferrari when they're really in the bicycle phase. And it's like, you're not there. So I understand you seeing all these people post and doing all these amazing things. Don't get caught up in the headlights. Run your race. My son is running track right now. I got both of them running track. And, every time I go to one of these track meets, I get so many spiritual connections to how the world is and how God is and how life is. But one thing that always stands out to me, and I tell them this all the time, you have to run the race that you run in your lane. It's not about the people next to you. It's not about the people way up in front or the way behind. You are running your race. And as soon as you start looking at their lane, because one of my sons runs 110 hurdles. And if you know anything about hurdles, it's a really short race. It's 110 meters. And if you make one mistake, if you take your eye off the ball for 1 second, you're going to hit that hurdle and you're probably going to tumble over. But the easiest way to make a mistake while running your race is to look at the runner next to you. Mm-hmm. Get off of these Instagrams and Facebooks comparing yourself. Mm-hmm. It's okay to lean into it and understand something and gain some wisdom. It's a different thing to look at them and go, man, I don't have that. I must not be good enough. I don't know if I need to be. You figure out your direction by figuring out where God wants you to go. Mm-hmm. You gotta go inside. Yeah. You gotta go inside. Right. The work begins inside. So, to back to that question, because I didn't even see it. I appreciate you bringing it out. How do you go through a brand adjustment? That's an interesting way to word that. Brand adjustment. That it sounds like mean a lot of different things. Yeah, it could mean a lot of different things. I think that people confuse like their life adjusting with their brand needing to adjust. Or maybe they want to adjust their brand because they don't like the direction it's going in. And so that's why a lot of people rebrand and do all of these things. But I want to be very clear. It's okay to take a moment, like you said, to figure out the direction you want to go in. Write some thoughts down, get wise counsel, read some books, go study some stuff. Take a moment, take a beat to put a little energy and effort behind understanding your brand. Because once you know your brand, there's not much adjustment you need to make. Mm-hmm. At that point, you're just refining it and polishing it to make it better. You're not necessarily adjusting it to try to go in a different direction. And I want to add something to that because I know everyone has their idea of a brand. Mm-hmm. Just for a moment, let's replace brand with legacy. Let's replace brand with legacy. Yeah, that's powerful. And that's going to pivot your thinking along. Yeah. You're building a legacy. What do you want it to be? What do you want it to be? Look like? When you're no longer here, what do you want people to see, feel, experience? What is that? And I think that's going to allow people to go in their quiet place and be like, let me rethink some things. Yeah. Because I think when they hear brand, it's what do I want it to look like? Yep. Mm-hmm. So if you think legacy, what are you truly leaving behind? Yeah. And how will people think about you when you walk out of the room? Yep. And when you walk out of their lives or when you go on to the next life, right? Yep. So yeah, that's good. Legacy. Woo. All right, look, I got another question for you before we wrap up. This has been an amazing call. Yes. I think it's so good and necessary to pour into people and give them these vitamins, right? Even if it's, 10 people or 100 people on the replay. The reality is people need to be able to tap into coaches such as yourself, strategists such as myself, to understand better about what they're doing day to day. Which leads me to this last question I got for you. What would you say is a belief that you personally had to let go of in order to truly find your identity? What is a belief I had to let go of? Yeah, so The reason I ask
Okay.
that is because I think a lot of people only focus on the beliefs that they want to keep. They want to focus on, oh, I believe in myself. I believe in God. I believe this can happen. But we also have negative and limiting beliefs that
Mm-hmm.
can cripple our ability to reach our destination. So in your own journey, like what would you say is a belief that you had to let go of in order to kind of get the clarity necessary to be on the path you're on?
Um, I'm gonna figure out the best way to word this where this doesn't become a full monologue. But I do remember me having, and I'll just say it was definitely a narrative where I was navigating life and I asked myself, who's going to save me? I kept asking myself, I was holding on to like, can somebody rescue me? Because I'm here showing up, doing all these things for other people. And for me, I always thought I'm the leader, I'm the nurturer, I'm here to support. But I also knew I have my own vision of what I want. And I realized no one's gonna save me. But then also I've already been saved by my Lord and
Okay.
Savior Jesus Christ, right?
Okay.
So when I lean into my source, I'm like, these people that I'm wanting to save me or rescue me or see me, they're not even my actual source. And so I had to drop the belief or expectation that someone else is gonna finally see what they can do for me or see how they can support me. And I had to realize that I'm already connected to the source. I'm already connected to abundance. And that alone was a breakthrough. I think that happened when I was in college. I was working multiple jobs on multiple things, studying abroad. Like, I never allowed anything to be an excuse for me. But you have those moments when you're a high achiever and you like, I'm exhausted from being a high achiever.
Yeah.
I keep pushing the needle and I'm really pushing it. It's like, oh Lord. Does anyone else see that I'm out here? Oh, okay.
Right.
I don't even
Or am
pay
I by
attention to
myself?
that. Right. And so that was definitely a breakthrough moment for me. And once I stopped having expectations of others and just only expectations from God, I just moved so more bold and confident and convicted, and my light shined even brighter. Like I've always been a positive person, but now I was leaning into my faith on a whole nother level to where other people were a bit confused, and I wasn't, but they were.
I love it. Man, that's good. Okay. I'll just reverse it back on myself real quick. I had to let go of a lot of beliefs per se. I never really lacked confidence in doing a thing. But I was a perfectionist. I felt like things had to be so perfect before they went to public eyes. So I had to let go of the belief that if things were not solidly perfect before they went public, then it's not going to do good, or it's not going to reach people, or nobody will want to be a part of it. And I think a lot of us get caught up in that, like, this has to be right. Oh, it has to be perfect. Sometimes it's okay, right, to put the thing out and allow it to impact somebody without perfection. Like, it's nothing wrong with situating yourself right, or getting your logo fine tuned to the point where you love it and all of that good stuff. But when it comes to the person, when it comes to who we are
Yeah.
already imperfect beings.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're filthy rags in the eyes of the Lord. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it's like, instead of thinking about things from that point of view, oh, what are they going to say about me? Oh, they're not going to like me. Oh, well, I have to be polished. And like, no, I've recorded videos walking around drinking coffee with a t-shirt on and pajamas, because that's who I am 85% of the time when
Yeah.
I'm at home. This is the reason why
Yeah.
people be on Zoom with a big old button down and then like some shorts beneath that. It's
Yeah.
because they're trying to put on a facade. So the more layers you can peel off and just allow yourself to be with some critique, right? I don't want to be in here in the dark while I'm doing this call. But don't be so much of a perfectionist that you're afraid to actually put something out there and see what the world has to say about it.
That's
Because it's
good.
going to enlighten you and bless other people. So that's what I had to learn.
So good. And I can take from that around putting the facade. I can say probably the one consistent compliment I get often is that the person I am online is who I am in real life. And I'm grateful for that and that people recognize that, because that's not a lot of people's story or reality. And so I'm grateful that I'm able to show up authentically as myself online, as well as, in person when I meet people. So that facade will never serve you.
And look, if you're one of those people who feel like, if they really knew who I am, fix who you are. Then you don't have to worry about who they see, right? You can be yourself, and that's what it's all about. So, look, I could preach on that all day, but I want to make sure I am mindful of your time. I appreciate you joining us with me. How can the people who are interested in connecting with you find out more about you or what it is you have to offer?
Yes, you can go to my link in my bio. I have my home site there. You can get added to my newsletter called the Clarity Code, where I'm dropping clarity to your inbox every week. You can be able to look at any upcoming events I have going on. I may be in your city, so you may want to check that out. But then also, like, schedule a call. I tell people, schedule a call. I am here. Most of my calls result in at least 30 to 90 days worth of homework. So I'm gonna give you that. I'm gonna give you that clarity and guys be like, "Oh, I gotta make all these decisions." Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. That's the work.
Right.
So yeah.
Work. Don't be afraid of the work. Speaking of the work, one thing that I've been working on most lately, and I'm very proud of it, is my community. So I have a Build Your Brand community. This is where I kind of focus in on not only my current clients, but people who just want to figure out their path and where they want to go and how to actually kind of round up the horses, so to speak, and get on that journey. So we're dropping stuff in there daily. We have a monthly call, kind of similar to this, whether I have a guest on or whether it's just me, where I'm really diving in and pouring into people, giving hot seat challenges and all that stuff. So if you're interested in building your brand, I promise you don't want to miss out on it. So go to my website, Rod Brinson, that's RODBrinson.com, and you can find all the information there.
Amazing.
But listen, Precious, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Look, I'm looking forward to reading this book. I haven't ordered it yet, but when we get off this phone, I'm ordering it so that I can read through it and we can have this part 2 conversation.
I'm here
about
for the
book
part
that you just
2.
dropped all the knowledge in.
I'm here for the part 2. Well, amazing. Once again, I appreciate this opportunity. I want to thank everybody for tuning in live and those watching the replay. Please see Rod and I as a resource in your network, in your toolkit. And, I tell people, like, when people offer, take them up on their offer and use it, because you never know. We be scared to ask for help, but we putting it out here. We are here to serve you. Period.
Ask the question, get the help, get the clarity, and stop having decision-making paralysis. All right, guys. Enjoy y'all night. Thank you so much, Precious. We'll talk to y'all soon. All right, bye.